Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Corn Productions with my co-host Stacie, here to talk about Sullivan's Crossing, Season 1, Episode 7, titled Second Chances. The episode's description reads as follows. After receiving some unfortunate news, Maggie returns to Sullivan's Crossing with Andrew. Maggie attempts to share her love for the crossing with a reluctant Andrew. After a night out, things take an unexpected turn. The episode is directed by Gail Harvey. This is her third effort on the series. Her last episode for the season will be the next one. The episode was written by Roma Roth. Before going any further, I'll tell you a couple of things. One, this is not a spoiler-free podcast, so if you haven't watched the episode, I highly recommend you go and check it out and come back and give us a listen. Secondly, if you're listening on one of the platforms that this podcast is now available on, please subscribe. You can also head over to my YouTube channel, Corman Productions, where additional content can be discovered. If you're already on my YouTube channel, please like, share, and comment, as well as subscribing to my channel. Alright, so first thing first, me and Stacie were a little sickly. I got a little bit of phlegm going on in my throat. She's been sick for like a week.
I'm coming off of being ill, so
so if we sound a little sick and
we're not our
great,
full energetic selves today, but we're gonna give it a shot.
Yes, the show must go on, as they say.
If I sound like I'm dying, it's okay. I got it.
Yeah, she will very likely live. All right, so shout out. The only one I have this week is for Ashley Wright. Ashley Wright suggested that there are some stores in other countries that operate on a honesty kind of deal, whereas you take a product from a store, it's not even manned, they drop out the money. That was in reference to the whole mountain climbing thing. I don't really think that applies. Nevertheless, it's interesting. Also, he suggested that as far as the when people die, some people, they don't get like these big fancy urns, they just put it in a shoebox. Now, what Cal had didn't really look like a shoebox. It looked like a nice box.
Fancy wooden box. It just didn't look like anything I've ever seen.
Right. And for all we know, we're wrong, and it doesn't actually have his wife's ashes in there. But that was kind of the assumption that we were going under.
Yeah.
So
I have another shout out.
You do?
Yeah, for Morgan Cohen, our very own Maggie.
Okay. What did she do?
She just got glasses for the first time in her life.
Okay.
This past week, and she was ranting about that on social media.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, I had given her my condolences. I went through that a year ago. I have my first pair of glasses. It's not a fun transition.
I mean, I should really be wearing glasses, but I don't. I tend to lose or break them, and they tend to be expensive. More money than I typically have. But hey, I'm pretty close to being monetized in this channel, so maybe the money will start rolling in there. I doubt it, but, we'll see. All right, Stacie, your thoughts on this week's episode.
Okay, so this is the one that they were trying to lead us astray with the trailer, and I was wondering if that was, like, CW cutting the trailer funny, trying to mislead us. Watching this episode, they were trying to mislead us.
In that opening scene, they were still playing coy with who actually died.
And
with lines that could go either direction.
I don't necessarily appreciate that.
No,
I thought that was just kind of ridiculous
and silly. Yes.
But they did end it fairly quickly. As soon as we got back from the opening credits, they revealed what was really going on. And I actually did a poll, so I'll start with that.
All right.
So, watching that opening scene, I'm on Twitter and I'm seeing people like, "Oh my God, is it Sully?" And people were upset, and I was like, "Wait, are people actually falling for this?" Because we saw it a mile away,
right? Absolutely.
Right. And so I did a poll. I was like, I need to know, like, who actually fell for this.
Right.
And 54% of respondents said they were not fooled. They knew who died.
Mm-hmm. I was one of those 54%.
And surprisingly, 46% of people said they were fooled.
Really?
So it's almost 50-50.
Wow.
Yeah, which, it goes to remind me that there's a big array of levels of fandom.
Yes.
That watch these shows.
Some are that are not as fluent in TV.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's not the From fans.
Right, of course not.
That were tricked. People who are used to watching shows that really make you analyze. Or people like us who, are analyzing every second because we're podcasting about it. Our listeners probably are the ones who are eagle-eyed and paying really close attention. Mm-hmm. Your average viewer isn't going and listening to a podcast after watching an episode of TV.
Right. Yeah, I kind of felt that this episode was a little disjointed. I mean, there's some great stuff here. There's some really good scenes. And then there's also some scenes that really don't work because we haven't done the necessary building to those moments. And I kind of felt like the perspective was off at times. Like, hey, why are we going over here when we should be here? Like, I thought the focus was not always where it should have been. And I think the stronger episodes in my mind are the ones that are a little bit more narratively focused. And this week wasn't really it, but it was still a decent episode.
Okay.
But yeah, I thought I had some problems with this episode.
I don't know if I felt that so much, but I don't know. We'll get to that one.
Yeah.
Tell me your individual complaints when we get to those scenes.
Okay. Are you ready?
Sure.
All right, let's dive into this thing. All right, so the episode opens with the wake. They are playing real coy as to who is dead, making us think that it's Sully that is dead.
Yeah, so Maggie and Andrew came in there. It's in the Sullivan household is where this is taking place, in Sully's house.
Yep, and Lola's lines could go either way. She could either be talking about Roy or Sully.
She's crying, and she said, I can't believe he's gone. He did so much for me. And of course, we know Sully's done so much for her, right?
And we don't really actually know what Roy has done for her other than give her maybe a house to live in.
I mean, give birth to her mother.
Yeah, I mean, there's that.
But parent her mother.
Yeah.
I don't think he gave birth.
No, I don't believe he did. Okay. And then there's Frank's line to Maggie about being sorry how she left things with Sully, which is kind of silly because it kind of implies that this can't be fixed, when I don't think that's really a Frank sentiment. I think Frank would be pushing them to fix things.
Right.
So,
it was very much pushing us to think Sully is gone. He said, I can't tell you how heartbroken Edna and I are. Yeah. She's the one who found him. It's going to take her a long time to recover from this.
Right. So Andrew does the whole concerned good boyfriend routine, which he does very badly. And he won't be able to keep this up for the entirety of the episode, that's for sure. That's one of the absolutely satisfying things for this episode, is watching Andrew flame out in this episode, the way he does. And then we have our credits. When we come back, we immediately learn that Sully is not in fact dead, that it's Roy who died, which, big shocker there. He tries to patch things up with Maggie, but she doesn't seem to be in the mood to hear it. And, at least he tries this week as opposed to last where he's like, it's not going to work, so I'm not even going to bother trying.
He's trying to apologize to Maggie, but she says, basically, I can't do this right now. She's looking for Edna. And we learned that Edna's the reason Maggie came back.
Right.
She came back for Edna because I guess Edna's really upset because she's the one who found Roy. And it does play really well. Everything, Edna's whole storyline this episode.
Yes.
Am I talking really loud? I can't hear myself in
You're
my
not
ears.
talking that loud. You're talking just fine and dandy. Your level is just fine.
My goodness. Do you remember, after the shooting? And
yes.
You were like, oh, they're going to just put this away, tuck it away so fast.
And I'm glad that I'm wrong.
Right.
They've continued that line throughout the episode.
Well, everything Edna's dealing with is still piggybacking on the fact that Frank was shot, and she's been kind of contemplating their mortality.
Right. And that absolutely makes perfect sense within the concept of this episode. That is one of the well done things about this episode.
Yeah, so Maggie walks away to look for Edna, and immediately, whatever Sully was doing to try and help, he throws it out the window when he talks to Andrew.
Yeah, Andrew approaches and attempts to suck up to Sully, brags about a king-size bed that they have at the hotel, like, I'm going to plug your daughter.
Sully very intentionally gets his name wrong again, calling him Adam.
And he
makes a comment about glamping.
Right. And drops that she's now his fiancée, but tells him that she hasn't accepted yet, but still will.
Yeah, for half a second, they almost got me there. And I'm like, oh my goodness, did she say yes off camera? Because no. But then we realized this is just Andrew, again, being delusional about their relationship. He's like, I proposed, so she's my fiance now.
Yeah, he reveals that he bought a house and even has a room for Sully for when he retires. Now, he either doesn't understand that Sully and Maggie's relationship is strained, or he actively doesn't care.
Yeah. He's being oblivious to everything, as usual.
He doesn't seem to pick up on Sully's insincere responses to him, or he doesn't care. And I'm not sure which it is. Like, is he literally really this oblivious, or does it just not bother him? And he's just, plugging away anyway. I don't quite understand. That's the thing is, I don't really understand this character that much. Except for the fact that I think that this nice guy persona is just that. It's all persona. It's not who he actually is. I don't think we know who Andrew really is when it comes down to it. And certainly Maggie doesn't.
Yeah.
And he doesn't understand Maggie. He's just, I don't know. I think he's playing the guy he thinks he needs to be, or to be, to be accepted by others. So yeah. Yeah.
So Maggie finds Edna.
Yeah.
And they have a chat, and then Cal and Maggie catch up with each other.
Oh yeah. Speaking of which, Edna and Maggie talk. She mentions that no one was there for him in the end. No one was there for Roy. Where was Lola? Why isn't she the one?
She was never around that much.
Right. Like, we get the impression that she, like, stops by, but we keep having these references to Roy having been lonely from Sully last week, and to not being the one to discover the body. Edna was. Like, what was Lola even doing? What did she do with her life?
I don't know.
But anyway, it's
I
clearly...
think she's in school. Did she mention school at one point?
She might have, but, like, it just doesn't seem like she's ever there.
Right.
Like, she should have been the one to, keep him company. She should have been the one to discover the body.
Right.
Not that I want that for her, but that's how it should have worked out.
Yeah.
So Edna and Matt... Oh, yeah, okay, we already talked about that. Edna goes to seek out Rob for some reason.
She said, I'm going to go help him. She wants to keep busy.
Right. Cal talks to Maggie, giving a clinical reason for Roy dying, while Cal is talking about it from an emotional perspective. We hear her like, this and this and that, medical jargon, and Cal's talking about dying from a lonely heart syndrome.
A broken heart. And she's like, well, yeah, he had cardiac arrest.
Right. His
heart broke.
Maggie reveals that her deposition didn't go well, and then Andrew approaches, marking his territory. He's practically, peeing all over the place. Sydney introduces herself. Cal checks out, not doing a very good job covering for himself, that he's really uncomfortable with Andrew.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to go talk to Lola.
Right.
And so Andrew seemed kind of confused by Sydney. He was like, who are you? How do you know Maggie? I think he really missed the point that she had a life here. She has friends here.
Yeah.
In his head, like, oh, she's just here to see her dad and hang out with this guy. And he's like, well, who are you? This is her friend.
Right.
She's told you this over and over. She has friends here.
For a person who's trying to get in with Maggie, he does really a piss poor job of, like, trying to relate to the people in Maggie's life.
Yeah.
So Sydney has to break up a fight with Finn and another boy. Connie greets Maggie, bringing up the shooting, which is news to Andrew.
Yeah, so he doesn't know anything about anything that's happened at Sullivan's Crossing.
Right. Maggie tells him that he was in surgery at the time. That's true. He says that she could have told him after the fact, which is also true. It's a solid point from Andrew. The only one that I think that he really has in the throughout the entire episode, really.
Can we talk about Connie for a second?
Yes. Let's do that.
When she came up in this scene, I did not recognize her.
No?
And I'm not sure why.
I didn't really either, but
for a second,
I knew who she was.
I went, did they recast her?
She looks different to you?
I didn't recognize her. I was like, who is this person? And then they introduced her as Connie, and I was like, that's Connie?
Right.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I checked IMDb. According to IMDb, it's the same actress. Although, we discovered IMDb is, like, really terrible on this series for some reason.
Yeah, for some reason, it doesn't seem to be accurate at all, especially, with the two Yahoos. They were not credited in every episode which they appeared, and neither is Andrew. Like, Andrew's credited in less episodes than he has appeared so far.
A lot of them are.
Yeah.
And, like, random people, like one of, this episode had a Mrs. Markiff supporter credited in it.
Yeah.
No. Nothing with Mrs. Markiff happened in this episode.
Right. Unless they happen to be at Roy's,
right,
funeral for some strange reason. But...
IMDb is really off on this one, and I don't know if that's got something to do with the fact that
it's a Canadian
series, and they're like updating it. I don't know. They did something messed up. Somebody messed up on IMDb. But they say it's the same actress. I don't know. Did she change her hair?
I think that might be the case.
I completely didn't recognize this woman, and I felt bad. I was like, why don't I know who you are?
Right.
And I think I need to go back and watch some of the earlier episodes and get
it's
clear
not like,
image of what is happening.
It's not like you actually see Connie all that often.
Right, but we've seen her a few times.
Right, which is a problem that I have with the storyline, and we'll get there. But, so he takes it a step further from, okay, well, you didn't tell me about the shooting. What else aren't you telling me about? Which is a little silly, but... Lola taps on her glass and gives a speech. She tells a few stories, gives a shout out to Cal, saying how he was, a new friend to Roy. Bless you. And then gives another shout out to Sully, which is salt in the wounds for Maggie. And Frank, as per his traditions, ends up singing him off. Which
he does some kind of a drum ceremony song.
Yeah. And, later on, Edna will say that as being sung off from this life or whatever.
Yeah.
Lola reveals that there was no will. Why not?
Right?
He's old. He's sick. Why didn't he have a will?
Right. And, I mean, that falls on Lola, I think, because he was already in a place where he wasn't going to think to do that.
Right. And Sully suggests talking to Cal. Connie, meanwhile, tells Maggie and Andrew that they're going to go for drinks after to cheer Lola up.
And a bunch of people are going, they said.
Maggie isn't sure, but Andrew accepts for them. And this is where I have jackass in my notes. I really don't like Andrew. And I don't think we're supposed to.
You're not supposed to, no.
No, but like he plays himself off as a good guy, but in the end he's really not so much.
Well, yeah, he's, instead of like looking to Maggie to see like, this is all about you, right? I'm here to support you. You're here to support whoever you're supporting.
Right.
He should be looking to her for like, okay, do you want to do this or not?
Right. There should be a discussion at the very least instead of, oh yeah, fine, we'll do that. That's cool. So Finn ends up fighting some more. Rob intervenes, and Sydney ends up taking Finn back to the diner.
Rob's really upset that Finn's fighting. And Sydney takes him away. Because he says, I really don't want to be here. I'm ready to go. And Rob's like, I can't go yet. I still have work to do.
Right. Maggie talks to Rob to cheer him up. And meanwhile, we see Andrew checking his watch. Like, oh, man, what, no. And once again, I have in my notes, jackass.
He actually goes to get the car. He's like, okay, you do whatever you need to do. I'm going to pull the car around so we can leave.
Right. Does he know for a fact that she wants to leave at this time and doesn't want to?
Yeah, nobody else has left yet. It still looks like, everybody's here.
Right.
We probably shouldn't be the first people to leave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I try to, leave somewhere in the middle. I don't want to be the first to leave, but I don't want to be the, I kind of strategize it so that, like, a couple of people have at least left before I do in any social situation. Yeah. But Lola confronts Maggie, wondering why she came back when she doesn't like her. Oh, yeah, and this is kind of random. Like, I realize that we've kind of dealt with this conflict a little bit, but it just seems like her confronting Maggie at this point isn't built up enough.
Yeah, this feels like a really bad time. She's like, why are you here? You shouldn't have come. You don't even know Roy. You hate me, so why are you here?
Right.
And Maggie's just like, I don't hate you.
Right. And she mentions the fact that she was really terrible to her when her mother was dying. And Maggie's like, we were kids. This is probably like, what, 15 years ago?
Right.
Like,
but this was a really bad place to do this. A bad time to do this. And it shows Lola's just as jealous of Maggie as Maggie is of Lola. They have this deep underlying, like, conflict that they need to deal with. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Maggie has every right to be here. This is literally her house.
Right.
You're in her backyard where she grew up.
Mm-hmm. Cal back at his house drinks a beer and has a memory of his wife dying. His wife, by the way, is played by Laura Vandervoort, who I knew as Supergirl in Smallville. She also had 3 episodes of Supergirl, totally different series, and as a totally different character, as well as a singular appearance on Handmaid's Tale, which I know is a show that you watch.
Yeah, and I had seen that too, and I couldn't place who she was. She was only in 1 episode. There's a lot of people in that series.
Yeah, no, it's not like she was in like a regular on that series, so I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't quite recognize her. But,
but yeah, we got to see her, the character of Lynn, which is Cal's late wife, and her song is playing. And we're like basically on her deathbed in the hospital.
Yeah. Yep.
Her song's playing, and I forget the name of that song. I had it a couple episodes ago. But we keep hearing that song, right? And it's every time we think about her. And she makes him promise that he's going to allow himself to move on after she's gone.
Right.
And he's reluctant. He's like, no, I only want to be with you. And she's like, well, I'm dying. So promise me you'll try.
Right. Rob goes to the diner and is annoyed that Sydney is giving Finn cake, basically rewarding him for bad behavior.
Right.
And quietly takes her aside to express his disapproval as opposed to just berating her in front of a bunch of customers. Sydney suggests...
Although there were actually, I don't think, any customers there at this time.
Yeah. Sydney suggests the mistake was taking him to a wake to remind him of his mother's death. Okay, I think this is highly debatable. I understand the urge as a parent to protect your kids from the mortality. The fact that one day you're going to die. But you can't really. So instead of not taking him to the wake, which I think also would have been a mistake, how about sit down with him and discuss the feelings that it brings up? Like, teach him how to handle this, as opposed to just avoiding the issue entirely.
Well, I mean, so I tweeted about this scene, and I said, Roy and Sydney, not Roy. My notes say Roy, definitely not Roy.
Roy is very dead.
Rob and Sydney need to get on the same page about parenting styles. This is like the third time now they've had a disagreement about how to handle things with Finn.
Right.
If she's going to help him parent Finn, they need to get on the same page.
Right.
And not deal with these things after the fact.
Effectively, they're co-parenting, even though they're not like,
So they need to get on the same page, but I agreed with Sydney. I don't think he should have gone to this wake. He's like 7, 8 years old.
Yeah.
He definitely doesn't know Roy.
Right.
Why does he need to be there? Rob is there working. He's not even there as a guest.
Yeah.
So I don't think that this child needed to be at this wake.
All right.
If it was a family member, sure.
Right.
But he doesn't know Roy. I'm positive he doesn't know Roy.
All right. So Sydney says he needs to spend time with his dad, which is, you have more to say?
I just wanted to say also that tweet that I was just mentioning.
Yep.
It was liked by Reed Price and Robin Carr. So I'll
okay.
take that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to really miss Twitter.
What was your comment again?
That they need to get on the same page about parenting styles.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, Rob sits down to talk to his son, but we don't hear this conversation because Raph comes in and talks to Sydney. And I really feel like we do this backwards. We should stay on Rob and Finn and hear this conversation. And I don't think we really need to deal with Sydney and Raph in this episode. I understand this plays off later in the episode, but do we really need this here?
Well, okay, so this is the first time that they're really talking to each other since, as far as we know, since the day at that ceremony where he asked her on a real date.
That was like episode 3 or something.
He asked her on a real date, and she said, "I'll think about it." And then later she told Maggie, "Oh yeah, I'm done with him. That's over." And this confirmed for me, she never told Rafe that. She never told him, "I'm done." He's sitting here like, "Where have you been? I haven't heard from you. Why are you ghosting me?" The last he heard is, "I'm going to think about going on a real date with you."
I would say that this day and age, in this dating, the dating life, that's not uncommon. People handling situations like this. This is pretty typical of how it's dealt with this day and age. Which is why I'm very much lost at sea in this new dating world, and why I'm probably never going to do it again, because shit like this is how things are handled.
Yeah, like, okay, you told Maggie you're done with him. How about you tell him? Just be like, I don't want to do this anymore.
That's not how women do
Why
these
are
days.
you letting him think that you're still thinking about it?
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. I just think that this is pretty typical for how things are done this day and age. And it sucks. It really, really does. But, he's confused about whether he's done something wrong, and she ends up taking Finn to the park after saying that Rob and Finn needed some father-son time. They go out to the park together. Why?
Yeah, it sounded like she'd already promised him they were going to go. He was like, "Are we going?"
Right.
So...
But he just as easily have gone with Rob.
Right.
The promise still could have been fulfilled with Rob.
And yeah, the whole point was to get them out of the room so that Finn and Rafe, or Rob and Rafe, could talk.
Right. Rob ends up giving Finn advice? No, he doesn't.
We're all over the place today.
Yeah. Rob gives
Rafe advice about Sydney.
Saying, basically dial it back, be less available.
Yeah, he says stop calling her, stop texting her. He thinks most women like a challenge.
Do you feel that's true?
I don't agree with that.
Right. I mean, we're talking from a very different perspective.
Again,
like we're 40 years old. These guys are in their 20s.
I don't know the current dating world. I'm married.
Right.
But
I'm not married, and I still don't know the current dating world.
But yeah, I'm the type of person that, if there's a pursuit happening, I want kind of constant communication. I want to hear from you. I want to know you're interested. So the advice of just like stop talking to her and she'll come around, that seems weird to me.
Yeah. It just seems like if you stop talking, then they'll just stop talking to you, and then nothing will ever happen.
Right.
But in this, I don't know. I don't know.
And I think it comes down to the fact that, everybody's different.
Yes.
There is no like, oh, women like this.
Right.
I don't think you can approach it that way.
No, I agree with you. So Lola ends up bringing Cal a chess set that, they used to play with Roy.
This was Roy's chess set,
Yep. And she talks about how she feels lost. Cal brings up things that Roy told him about her and suggests she's tougher than she thinks.
Yeah, specifically referencing that accident when she was 7.
Which apparently led to her being in a coma.
Right, so we got that detail that she was in a coma. This whole conversation, though, felt really weird. The fact that we keep bringing up this accident that happened 30 years ago.
Right. I mean, it is out of place a little bit, but I mean, I guess she was in a coma, so it's relevant to her life.
It just seems like we keep bringing it up like it's such a current topic, and it shouldn't be.
Right. And I think we're bringing it up because we're going to find out who actually did it.
Right.
By the end of the season. And I still think it's going to be Sully.
She said, I always hoped that we'd find the person responsible, but he must be long gone by now.
You would figure.
So yeah, this doubles down my belief that this definitely is going to come back. Yeah. We're going to deal with this because they keep bringing it up. Yeah, you discussed, you thought it was a drunk Sully. I had another thought during this scene. What about Phoebe?
Which one is Phoebe?
Maggie's mom.
Oh, okay.
Could that be the reason she was in such a hurry to get out of Dodge?
Maybe. That would make sense. Maybe.
Either of these ways, it's one of Maggie's parents, and they suck.
Right.
But
yeah.
I think that's a possibility, that Phoebe could have done it, and, that was her catalyst to be like, okay, well, I already am not happy with my drunk husband, so this would be a great time for me to flee.
Okay, that makes sense. I think it's going to end up being Sully, but that's also a possibility. She asks for help with the lack of a will situation, and he offers to make a few calls on her behalf.
Yeah, which is not what she was looking for. She's looking to spend time with him and do this personally, and he's just like, that's not my expertise.
He's a criminal defense lawyer, is what we've been told. He doesn't know anything about that area of the law.
Right, but also, I don't think she's necessarily looking for a lawyer. She's looking for someone to help her navigate her role in this.
Right, I got you. Frank happens upon Edna singing, and Frank suggests writing a will. They don't already have one?
Yeah, they this is where they're like, hey, we should get our affairs in order, because
what's up with all these people who haven't already done this?
And that shows, this is the laid back country where this is their lifestyle. They just kind of live day to day and they don't think about the future.
I guess so. So Edna wants to have a trip to a place.
She wants to go to Alberta to visit his cousins.
Yes.
Which she hasn't spoken to in years. She wants to mend the relationship with his family because she was saying, I don't want to be alone once you're gone. They're both pretty sure that he's going to go first.
Yeah, I mean, he is older.
He is older, but yeah, they keep coming back to you're going to be gone someday and I'm going to be alone. I mean, it's not necessarily going to happen in that order.
Right. I mean, she could get hit by a piano now for all we know.
Right. But yeah, she wants to connect to his family because she wants to have them to lean back on when he's gone.
Mm-hmm. Frank is not on good terms with them, but relents for her. Andrew and Maggie hang in the woods. She mentions jumping off rocks. Andrew talks about people ending up in surgery doing that. All right, so this scene in my mind is Maggie attempting to connect with Andrew.
Right. She's trying to connect him and she's trying to make a decision.
Right. And basically, he's not getting that. He's not appreciating what she's actually doing here.
Right. Absolutely.
And, he's... All right, so I have a theory about Andrew. I think he senses that he's not all the way there with Maggie.
Oh, he knows that. I mean, he'll admit that later.
Right. And I think this is him, pushing that more because he's trying too hard, really, when it comes down to it. He's trying to get her all the way there, but and in this scene he's bringing up the proposal. He's not giving her any space on that issue. But not only that, he skips from not even having accepted the proposal yet to talking about having children.
Right.
Andrew is doing everything that he could possibly do wrong here in my mind. He's talking about oh well, we can use this whole lawsuit thing, in your temporary pause in your career to start having children. Do you know for a fact that that's what she wants? Have you had this conversation before?
And he even said, we haven't talked about this, but yeah, you're doing too much at once.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's the waterfall at the lake, and he says it's beautiful. I just don't understand why you brought me here.
Right.
He says that to her.
Because it's a nice place.
And she says, well, this was my favorite place here.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, she said she used to watch kids jump off, but she never had the courage to do it herself. Now, if Cal was here with her, they'd already be in the water after she said that. Yeah. He'd be like, let's do it.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that's where we're going based on, all of the trailers we've seen from the season. We see them in water at some point. This has to be where they are. But yeah, they're just having two really different conversations at the same time. It's very
I think
peculiar.
Maggie, at this point, Maggie's just trying to connect with him at all. And he's trying to push things like way further than where they're actually at. Once again, being completely delusional about the state of their relationship. So we have a Jackson scene where he meets his dad and tells him that he called in a favor with a recruiter. Jackson says he wants to take a year off, more time to think, and Tom instantly jumps to blaming his mother, and we don't see the scene continue. I really would have preferred to hear Jackson speak a little bit more. Be like, well, this has nothing to do with my mother.
Jackson saying, I want to take a year off is the most we've got out of Jackson on this topic, right? Mm-hmm. But this is Jackson saying, I don't want to do it. Mm-hmm. Also in this scene, we learn that Connie's dating a woman. That's new information. Yeah. So who's she? Where's she at?
I don't know. So meanwhile, Frank happens upon Andrew. Well, Frank's sitting on the stoop of the store. Andrew and Maggie come back. Mm-hmm. Says that and Frank ends up saying that the waterfall area was special to her. She used to keep it a secret.
Yeah, he's surprised that she even took him there.
So, by the way,
Andrew was a big deal.
Right. This was something special, and this goes whoop straight over his head.
Again.
And Frank also is trying to connect with Andrew here. He's trying to get to know this man.
Right.
And Andrew just kind of blows that off. He can't reconcile the image of the old Maggie, the younger one, the one who get dirty, with the current one.
Yeah, he says,
and that's all he's focused on.
He says, I can't imagine her playing in the dirt. Like, she's the cleanest person I know. She keeps her apartment immaculate. And remember what we learned, like last week.
Right.
Maggie cleans when she's anxious or upset.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that she is constantly cleaning in Boston maybe is a hint that she's not all that content in her life there.
Right. Yeah, yeah. So, Edna is preparing for the vacation. Are they going to leave, like, now?
Yeah, it seems like she's like, I made some soup, and I just got to bake some pies, and we'll be all set.
Okay.
That's quick.
Yeah. She suggests Maggie should stay and watch the store, but Maggie is going back to Boston with Andrew. Edna asks about the lawsuit situation, asks her about having a chance to talk to Sully, but Maggie's pretty determined to remain mad at Sully.
Yeah, and Edna just, really encourages her to talk to Sully before she leaves.
And, Maggie just kind of blows it off, really, when it comes down to it. Yeah, I'm just going to take this and leave. Anyway. Andrew plays poker with Rob.
Yeah, we're finally up to that part of the day where everybody's going out for drinks that we learned about this morning.
Right. Rob, Raph, and Tom, and he's fishing for details on Cal, and suggesting Cal might be a troublemaker. But Raph says everyone loves him. All right, is that really true? Because everything that we've gotten to this point in the series is that Cal kind of keeps to himself.
Yeah, but they all think he's a good guy.
Okay.
Like, nobody has a problem with him. But it's funny because, everybody... Andrew's... he's joined the game, right? Everybody's getting along. But he's hearing all these things that just don't sit right with him.
Mm-hmm.
So Rob was talking about Frank shooting. And Rafe kind of suggested that Maggie and Cal were at the dance together, which isn't true.
No.
That was a stupid thing for him to say.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tom just goes off about, how dangerous it was, what they did. They could have gotten killed. We were talking about saving Frank's life from the shooting.
Yeah.
No one's even brought up the kidnappers.
Right.
So that's not even what we're talking about, but that's where Tom's head is. But yeah, saving his life in the woods with, duct tape and a credit card or whatever the hell they did.
Right.
Was different than approaching the kidnappers. That was the dangerous part.
Right.
But yeah, Andrew's just hearing little bits and pieces of all of this and is just kind of like, what the hell happened here?
Right.
Like, I don't know anything about my fiance's life.
Right. Which is pretty typical because he doesn't seem to ever know anything that's going on. Cal ends up talking to Maggie and tells her to keep him posted and to say goodbye before leaving.
Yeah, because she's going back to Boston tomorrow. Nobody realized she was leaving quite so quickly.
Right. Before being called over by Rob to play some poker. Andrew takes the opportunity to engage in a little pissing match by throwing $100 on the table. Raph ends up leaving because that's too rich for his blood.
Yeah, and honestly, the only person at this table that can afford to play that high stakes of a game is Andrew.
Yeah.
But everybody else indulges.
Right. Rob and Tom stay in the game, and as does Cal. Andrew's like, didn't know handymen got paid that much. And Cal casually says he would know because he's a lawyer.
Yeah, new information for Andrew.
Right. Sully and Frank talk. Sully reveals that Andrew proposed, and he doesn't like him because he reminds him of Walter. I don't necessarily agree that Andrew is Walter. I don't know who Andrew is. I don't know. I've gotten enough of Walter to know, where he is on a lot of issues.
Yeah.
I know that he's a morally bankrupt character. I don't know, Andrew's philosophy on surgery or, patient care or even the lawsuit. I haven't gotten any kind of perspective into his mind on things.
Right, but he reminds him of Walter, I think, just because, he's a big city man, he's a doctor.
Well, yeah, there's that.
And I think that's as much as he knows.
Right. And I'm sure that's the reason, basically, he doesn't like him. But I don't think they're equivalent, necessarily.
Yeah.
At least not from a moral perspective, if that makes any sense. Sully wonders if he had fought harder to keep her here, would Maggie be happier?
Yeah, and Frank and Sully, by the way, didn't go to the bar. They're still at the store. Mm-hmm. They're the only two people that didn't partake in this adventure here.
So Sully is an alcoholic. Is Frank one as well?
I think that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was, the person who helped Sully with the meetings and all
mm-hmm.
that. So I think that's possible, yeah.
In the game, Tom folds. Raph ends up dancing with Lola. And Tom insists they need to talk. Oh, okay, so Tom sees Connie and insists that they need to talk and confronts her about Jackson. Now, he says, we need to talk, but not here. And then walks like maybe 2 feet away.
Right, just pulls her into a corner.
How is this not here? Like, you're still having this conversation where people, your
right.
friends,
and she even says that. She's like, we're not going to do this in front of all our friends.
Right, this conversation shouldn't be happening now. It should be happening in private.
Yeah.
And this whole little thing just straight up doesn't work for me. Like, we haven't really seen enough of these characters to really care about this conflict. And if anything, we should be seeing this from the perspective of Jackson,
mm-hmm.
not really from these two
Who's
characters.
Also not here, because I don't think he's old enough to be at the bar.
Right, probably not. So yeah, this little bit played a little weird for me.
And speaking of the bar, why are we doing this at some random bar? Why are we not at Shandon's?
Oh.
We learned one time that Shannon's has this hopping nightlife, but we've never revisited that again.
Yep. Yeah, that's a little weird. Maybe it's because this is bigger. This has more space. I don't know. So, yeah. Okay.
Sydney's jealous that Rafe's dancing with Lola, and she goes and cuts in.
Yep. Yeah, it's not really clear if Raph did this intentionally, because Lola asked Raph to dance, not the other way around.
Right. And Lola is... I'm feeling a little sorry for her at this point.
Yeah, no, that's my other thing, is like, okay, this whole thing is about cheering her up.
Right.
So why not just let her continue to dance with Raph?
Her grandfather died.
Right.
And everybody is just kind of like turning her away.
Right. I mean, what's the harm in just letting her continue to dance with Raph? Like, I feel like this should have just happened differently. Like, maybe this should have been a ploy between Raph and Lola, as opposed to playing it this way. I don't know. But yeah, it was like, we're here to cheer her up, and then we're rejecting her, basically, and that's not nice.
Yeah. Well, actually, Sydney had said they're here to cheer Edna up.
Oh, okay. I thought it was, all right. So we don't care about Lola.
Also, we should be caring about Lola, because it's her grandfather's funeral.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't think anybody really cares about her.
No. Okay.
So Lola goes and she sits at the poker table.
Yep, she ends up sitting next to Cal. And Andrew raises.
And it's down to just Cal and Andrew, of course.
Yeah, Rob ends up folding. Cal calls.
And there's a huge pot of money on the table, like hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Right. Cal calls, and then he raises. Andrew thinks he's bluffing, and Cal's like, oh, well, you're going to have to put money down to find out. And he ends up calling. Cal ends up winning. Andrew has clearly been drinking way too much.
Yeah, and unsurprisingly, we learned Andrew's a pretty sore loser.
Yeah. Cal gets ready to leave. Andrew insists that he play more because it's bad for him to, not let somebody win their money back.
Yeah, and Cal's like, here, take your money. And it's real easy to tell because he's got the only one on the table with American money.
Right.
He hands his money back and is like, it's supposed to be a friendly game. Like, you're the only one who wanted to play for money.
Right.
So, here, Andrew, take your money.
Like a 2-year-old, ends up flinging the money at Cal and says, I don't want it back. I want to win it back. And Maggie comes in wondering, hey, what's going on here? Cal says, nothing. They're done. And Andrew says, no, I don't think so. We're not done until I say we're done. And things are getting a little heated.
Maggie's trying to get Andrew to leave at this point. But he'd rather just kind of stay and put on a show.
Right.
He's showing his pretty ugly side right now.
Right. Andrew tells him he knows what's going on here. And he admits he saw the text, which was completely harmless.
He says, I saw the text. You mean the one about fishing?
Right. The friendly text, checking in on her.
Yeah.
It's not like he was like, oh, I can't wait to get you into bed and sleep with you. And
and Maggie's like, what are you talking about? I haven't received any texts.
Right. And then, of course, Andrew reveals that he deleted it.
Yeah.
Which, so Cal says, oh, no. Okay. Andrew says he's done everything he can to make her happy, that she just keeps pushing her away. She's like, I moved to Boston for you. I bought you a house, which, by the way, she did not ask for.
Right.
They have not had this discussion.
The conversation in episode 1 was she didn't even want to move in together.
Right.
As boyfriend, girlfriend. She was not ready for that. But suddenly you think she's ready to live in a house with you, get married, and have children.
Right. Yeah, like I said, Andrew is just like on this other planet compared to where Maggie is actually at. He's like in some fantasy land. He's just completely clueless. And I could have wrote Andrew is a dope every time he appears on screen in this episode, for sure.
But yeah, he basically realizes out loud that Maggie's just not that into him.
Right. He asks, do you love me? And she says, nothing. He says, he's done. He tries to leave. Maggie tries to prevent him from doing so. He pushes her, which comes pretty damn close to domestic abuse.
I felt like he accidentally pushed her into the bar, but it's because I don't think he meant to do that specifically.
Right.
But it's because he was, trying to prevent her from moving past him.
Right.
Or something like that. Like, he didn't mean to, push her, but he definitely did. Like, he pushed her into the bar.
Cal helps her, and then Andrew punches Cal.
Yeah, so Cal jumps to her aid.
And Cal, by the way, exercises remarkable restraint here in not punching this guy back.
Yeah, and so because Cal jumped to her aid, he's like, I gotta take care of this guy. Punched him. Everybody rushes in to break it up, but I had to note that Rob was across the room in half a second to step in and break up this fight.
Did he have his baseball bat?
He didn't have his baseball bat, no, but he was pretty handy without it still.
Right. And then Andrew starts to leave and says it's very clear that she doesn't know what she wants, and that when she does, she knows where to find him.
So he says, I'm done. Mm-hmm. Basically, he's like, goodbye, I don't want to do this anymore. But in the very next sentence says, if you figure out what you want, you know where to find me.
Right.
That's kind of the opposite of saying you're done.
Right. She's upset. She ends up leaving the bar crying. Okay. So you've said all along, for 7 episodes now, that Maggie doesn't really care about this relationship. So why is she this upset that he essentially broke up with her?
Well, I mean, I don't think she's trying to get out of the relationship. Mm. Like you said, she's just not in the same place as him.
Right, okay.
She's not ready to go live happily ever after, but she doesn't want him to just walk through the door.
Right, so she does care about him even if she's not
She cares about the fact that they're in a relationship. Mm. And, this was a pretty horrific scene. She's embarrassed about how this played out. She wants to go have a private conversation with him about this.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I thought the scene was pretty great. It was satisfying watching Andrew flame out the way that he does. I don't see him coming back from this, honestly. He shouldn't come back from this. You're like, okay, so I get that in his past, his wife cheated on him. That does not excuse his behavior here. Or with the deleting the text message, I get that he's drunk. Once again, that does not excuse his behavior. It explains it, but it doesn't excuse it.
Right.
Andrew should just be straight up done in her eyes. Now, unfortunately, for some women, that wouldn't be the case. They would still keep going with this, which is unfortunate. But he should be done right here and there. There should be no hope for their relationship at all. I have a feeling, though, that this is not the last we're going to have of this relationship.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, this isn't the last we're going to see of Andrew because he is in the trailer for episode 8.
Is he?
Yeah. And I saw the trailer when this aired live, and I looked for it again. I couldn't find it to see it again. But
yeah, I can't find it on YouTube.
It was just a quick little blip, but he was definitely there.
Oh, okay. So Sully's home alone. He hears a knock at the door. He's annoyed. But he goes to answer the door, and it turns out to be Maggie crying and asking if he can stay there. And so he's like, of course, you don't even need to ask. And they embrace. Sully takes her upstairs.
She tells him that Andrew and her broke up.
Right.
And he went back to Boston. They're hugging it out. She's crying. This could be the thing that gets them back together, right? Sully, this could heal their relationship.
Sully should totally see what's coming next.
And he takes her upstairs. He says, you get settled in, and then we can talk.
And then, of course, she discovers that he painted over the mural, which he did last episode.
Yeah, the tree is gone. And I'm happy to see that he actually did paint it the right color. What we saw was just the primer coat. He did make it match the rest of the room.
Now, is there a way to perhaps get that off and go back to the mural?
Probably not.
Oh, okay.
But they can make a new mural.
Oh, that's true. That could signify their new relationship, their new mended relationship. If they paint a new mural, I could see that.
But yeah, she is so upset over seeing this that she runs out of the room crying.
Right.
So I don't know where she's going now.
Right.
But her one place of solace just kind of blew up in her face.
Yeah.
Now, I pointed out on Twitter, and this is where I stand with this, she's clearly more upset about the tree
than she is about her relationship.
Than she is about Andrew.
Right.
And somebody needs to point that out to her.
Yeah.
So that she can move on from Andrew. Because like you said, I think she's more upset about the idea of a breakup than about not being with Andrew.
That makes sense.
And the fact that she's more upset about this tree, which is just this signifying thing to her about her relationship with her father. And in this moment, that's so more important to her than the breakup that she's dealing with.
Right.
Should be all that she needs to know to say, oh, wait, maybe I'm not upset about Andrew. Maybe I do need to just move on and be okay with letting him go.
Right.
And she needs someone to tell her that. She needs someone to be like, look, what are you upset about?
Right.
You're upset about the tree on the wall.
So I see 3 likely candidates for that. Frank is pretty insightful, so I could see him pointing that out. Sydney. Or Edna, really, when it comes down to it. I even see Rob having some insight into that situation. But, so any of those people could potentially point that out to her.
Yeah.
All right, so, I thought this was a kind of a disjointed episode in some respects. Some stuff just kind of came out of nowhere.
A lot happened over one day.
Yeah.
Like, we know this all happened on one day.
Like, I think, maybe some of these things that happen here maybe could happen elsewhere and not here. And we could focus on what the strength of the episode, which was Andrew, Maggie, Cal, and Sully.
Yeah. Well, also the fact is, this episode was supposed to be about Roy's funeral.
Right. And it has nothing to do with anything about Roy. Yeah.
We hardly touched on him at all, and I feel like that was a little sad.
Yeah.
I feel like we should have given Roy a little more attention.
Yeah, that was also a misplaced or a missed opportunity, I would say. And also the other strength of this episode was the Rob stuff with his kid, but we didn't focus on that.
Yeah, that's been just kind of sprinkled in throughout the episodes very slowly, right? Almost to the point where it feels like, why are we doing this? Yeah. And if we weren't such big Reed Price fans, I almost think we'd be like, why do we care about this family that's hardly involved in the storyline?
Right.
So, I don't know. I feel like they need to give them a little more attention.
I absolutely agree
to make us care a little more, as the general audience about what's happening over at the Shandon place.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So,
but hopefully they get more airtime as we move forward.
Yep. Yeah, 3 episodes
left. 3 episodes left. I saw people on Twitter after this aired and the trailer came up and it said only 3 episodes left, and I saw a couple people that were really upset, like, what do you mean only 3 episodes? And I replied to them, I said, yes, there's 10 episodes in season 1, but the good news is they are currently filming season 2.
Yes,
absolutely. It is happening. It is filming.
Now, it's a little questionable as to when you and I will go watch that.
And I also, in the same tweet, I said that. I said, hopefully CW, now that they have this arrangement, will be able to get it either at the same time and they can air simultaneously, or get it shortly thereafter and we don't have to wait a whole year after it airs in Canada, like what happened with season 1. And Sullivan's Crossing CW official page liked that comment.
Oh,
so
okay.
I take that as a positive note that they want to keep airing the show.
Yep.
And hopefully they have plans to do so in a timely manner.
All right. Sounds good.
Inside sources tell me that they're currently filming episode 7 of season 2.
Ooh. And who are your inside sources?
Well, you can take a guess at that.
Okay. So maybe Reed Price or Deep Throat? Did you meet in the, a garage somewhere? And did you I can't tell you who I am. But
actually, 2 people have kept me informed about filming.
Okay. Well, actually, I'm assuming the other one is Faith.
Yeah, you're pretty good at guessing.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, they're filming. I'm assuming it's 10 episodes. I don't think I know that for a fact, but I'm assuming season 2 is also 10 episodes.
Is Faith in season 2?
Yes.
She is? Okay.
Yes. And she is still working in the hospital in season 2.
Okay, good for her.
She's recurring her role as Nurse Faith in the background.
Okay. All right. So this week for us U.S. people is Thanksgiving.
Yes, and there will be an episode.
Yeah, there will be. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. So that would air tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah, that'll air tomorrow, and we're dropping.
We're doing this a little later than would be ideal.
Yeah, because we were both sick. But happy Thanksgiving to our U.S. viewers, to our Canadian viewers. Well, you had a Thanksgiving, and happy Thanksgiving if I hadn't mentioned it to you before.
Happy November.
Yes.
Happy Black Friday.
Happy Black Friday.
I think that's celebrated worldwide.
Probably. All right, so Stacie, any further thoughts about this episode?
No, I think we covered everything I had to say about it.
All right, Stacie can be reached at?
I can be reached on Twitter, X, Instagram, and Threads at TVN Coupon Talk.
If you like this video and want to support the channel, there are a number of ways to do so. You can follow me on Twitter at Core Productions. You can join my Core Productions Facebook page. You can buy something from the Core Productions store on Zazzle. You can buy me a coffee, which is a new way to support content creators such as ourselves. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video as well as subscribing to our channel. This is Dave and Stacie from Core Productions signing off.